leave behind every time you get on a device. So, here's Miss Hollie.
Thank you. And I'll give it to Elliot.
And I'll give it to me. All right, so yes, thank you. So my name is Detective Elliot Harding. I'm a detective with the Rapid City Police Department, and I specifically work on the ICAC task force, which stands for Internet Crimes Against Children. So if there's a crime that has to do with the internet and a juvenile, somebody under the age of 18, I investigate all those different types of crimes. Do we have anybody in here that is 18 or older? So we do have a few of you. Okay, well, it's still going to pertain to you. But to be successful, I can't do it by myself. So without further ado, I'll introduce Hollie Strand.
Yay! I am a forensic examiner with the Pennington County Sheriff's Office. Essentially, I tear apart computers, phones, tablets, servers, anything that contains child exploitation, child solicitation, child pornography, child sex trafficking. I also get tagged sometimes with game fish and parks, the mountain lion poaching cases, homicides, thefts. So I do get a break and do a crazy amount of just nonsense at times. Let's just get right back in. Let's just jump right into it. Facts about being a teenager. You could not trade me right now. So you guys are high school. You couldn't trade me $1 million to trade spots with you guys. For reason number one, you have more hormones in your body right now than you'll ever have in your entire life. Hormones make you do stupid things. It screws with your head. It screws with your emotions. Who in here needs at least 12 hours of sleep? Okay, that's all hormones. One day you wake up and you just want sugar, grease, just absolutely nasty food, hormones. My mom used to tell me all the time, she said, you're ridiculous. One day something makes you cry, the next day it makes you laugh, the next day you don't even remember what it was about. Okay, sure enough. Your brain development. So a little weird fact, I have my master's degree in forensic science. In order to get your degree in forensics, you have to go to a coroner's office. So in Las Vegas, my second day at the Clark County coroner's office, they let me cut a scalp, saw a skull, and remove a human brain. My first master's degree is in psychology, so I love to study people, and I love to study the human brain. And what they tell us about the human brain is that the prefrontal cortex, that is the part of our brain that keeps us out of trouble. It's responsible for impulse control, logic, reasoning, making really good choices. It doesn't fully develop till we're 25. So essentially, we're all kind of dumb till we're 25. And it's weird when you get to that 25-year-old mark, you look around at your friends and you're like, hey, we're all kind of growing up. So you have the ability and the opportunity to screw up your lives. I have 3 kids at home. I have Moses, Miriam, and Esther. They are 7, 8, 9. They have the ability to burn down the house. They have the ability to hurt each other. They have the ability to make some really bad choices. I just don't give them the opportunity because they're little. I don't leave them home alone. You guys are at an age that you're alone all the time. You're all over the age of 10, so you have the ability to be arrested, have a criminal history. You can make a lot of damage and a lot of waves in your life at this point because you have both the ability and the opportunity. So what do I know about that? It takes a lot of work for you guys to have a good life. This year I turned 44. If I want to have a good life, I'm done being hormonal. My brain's done developing. If I want to have a good life, I get up in the morning and I live it. You guys get up in the morning, you fight through hormones that absolutely screw with reality, your brain not working right, and then hope and pray that you don't make a decision that takes away some really big opportunities down the road. So what could go wrong? We'll talk about your digital footprint and dangers from online predators. Show of hands. Do you come across inappropriate content without looking for it? You don't have to look for it, right? So people always think I look through suspect stuff. I look through kids' devices, teens' devices, and adults. So I see stuff, and kids aren't looking for it, and they come across it anyway. So inappropriate content. I always tell kids, don't be surprised, especially teenagers, the day you turn 18 if you have credit cards and other accounts in your names. Have you ever wondered why every place you go asks you to download an app? You go through the drive-thru, download McApp, Kellogg's, any video game, any application. What do they want? Your name, your email, your zip code. It's called data broking. Knowledge is power. So the more data they can get from you, the more they can sell it to other people and basically make money on your name and your information. That's why you shouldn't be surprised if the day you turn 18, if there's credit cards and other accounts, because they've been collecting it since you knew how to read and write. Everything that you've been doing, that every site you've ever gone to has been collecting data. Online solicitation, we'll get to those. Exposure and addiction. Does anybody in here know somebody who's addicted to their phone? How many people have parents that are addicted to their phone? How about pornography? The average age in our country that kids are exposed to pornography is 5 years old. I talked to a dad whose 11-year-old daughter was addicted to pornography. I had to sit down with the parents of a 16-year-old boy and tell them, your son's been looking at porn for about 4 years now, and he's getting into illegal stuff, and he's on our radar. He's 16. And the parents said, do we have a bad kid? I said, no, you got a good kid with a bad addiction. Here's the reason why it's everywhere. So you can try to get away with it or get away from it. I had a young man who was about 13 years old walk up to me and he said, what would be a good way to ask my parents to put a filter on our internet without telling them that I just can't stop looking? He was embarrassed. He was shameful. He felt guilty about it. And he said, no matter where I go, it's there. The pornography industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And when you have billions of dollars, you can put porn anywhere you want. And they have a slogan, they have a saying that if they can get you guys hooked by the age of 10, if they can get you hooked as a teenager, they say they have a customer for life. They say if they can get boys and girls hooked, that from there on out, you guys won't be satisfied with anything normal, and you'll always have to go back to something on a picture or video. Lack of real relationships. This is my soapbox. I watch people sit across from real people and cling to a piece of metal, plastic, and glass. I was sitting at Perkins and I saw this little guy walk in, probably 9 or 10 years old. He walks in with his grandma, and like I told you, I like to watch people, and I'm looking, and the first thing I notice is he's got a tablet in his hand. And he's sitting there, and they end up sitting in front of us, and the only thing that little guy said the entire time he was there with his grandma is he told her what he wanted off the menu. And at one point, the grandma's just kind of sitting there doing the... And I'm thinking, she's probably wondering, do I ask him about his game? Do I talk to him about it? And she's just sitting there, and I'm looking at this guy, this kid, and I'm thinking, all my grandparents are dead. I would pay $1 million to sit across from my grandparents. Someday that woman is going to be dead, and you're going to have a little piece of metal, plastic, and glass, as though that has any real significance. We had a little foster girl in our home. We had her for over half her life, and they just moved her. You know what one of my biggest regrets is? How many times I looked at a phone when I could have been just in her space, like just hanging out with her. The day my parents die, I will regret every second I touched a phone in their presence. I watch kids trade real relationships with real garbage online. I do know this, real relationships take a lot of time, they take a lot of effort. To be married takes a lot of effort. To be a good friend takes a lot of effort. I tell the guys in the lab, I hate looking through teenagers' phones because I watch them block and unfriend, block and unfriend, block and unfriend for really dumb things. And then I realize that it's not just teenagers, it's actually everybody. I see it with adults. Who'd you vote for? Block and unfriend. Where do you stand on abortion? Block and unfriend. Where are you at with immigration? Block and unfriend. And then we have these tiny little silos that we live in, these little echo chambers where we can't tolerate anybody that doesn't say the same thing we do. And then we find out that someday when our best friend's dad dies and she's not fun to be around for an entire year, that real relationships take time, energy, and you have to be willing to be in somebody's space. It's scary to see that we are clinging to a piece of metal, plastic, and glass when we have real people that actually want to hang out with us. I had this little guy one time, we were speaking, and this kid walked up, and he starts crying in the presentation. He said, I can't believe how much I fight with my dad about my video games. And I don't know if his dad was like diagnosed with cancer or was going to die or something, but it just hit him, the amount of time that he spends fighting with his dad over video games. And the last one is digital heroin. Have you ever noticed how addicted we can get to a device? How crazy addicted? So there was this big push a few years back, probably 10 years back now, and what they said is that our kids in the United States, we were falling behind Russia, Japan, and China, and we just had to give you guys tablets. And if we gave you guys tablets, some kind of tablet, somehow you guys would become brilliant. We just had to give you tablets. And then you see tablets, grants, flooding the markets into the schools. Some schools completely got rid of books, and then they asked the people that build technology, they said, what do your kids think about it? And they said, kind of chuckled, like, we're not dumb enough to get our kids devices. The most sought after schools by people that own Google, Apple, Uber, Amazon, send their kids to schools that ban electronic devices. You think, well, why would they do that? If they build it, why would they push it on American kids and yet at the same time keep it from their own kids? They cited two major things. One, addiction, and the other thing, that it didn't make kids any smarter. So let's talk about addiction. Every time our phones beep, vibrate, we get a new Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, anything. We get this little hit of dopamine. Same dopamine if you eat sugar, if you eat salt, if you drink beer, if you smoke cigarettes. Dopamine. This is what it looks like with a kid playing video game. Dopamine, 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 dopamine. Somebody says, put it away. The brain goes through withdrawals similar to heroin withdrawals. I've had parents describe their child as a drug addict. They lose their mind. They freak out. They have smashed things in the house. They search for their phone in my house like it is a drug. I have never had my child act that way until I took away the device, and now they get sneaky, they get mean, they're looking for other devices. I'm like, it's just like a meth head. When you take away their device, it's no different. So they talk about the addiction, but they also talk about whether it makes us smart or not. So if you put electrodes on a kid and you send him outside and say, hey, I just want you to pick up some sand and let it run through your fingers, the brain's going to light up like a Christmas tree because a bunch of different parts of the brain are going to respond. They can hear it, they can see it, they can sense it, they can feel it. There's all these things going on. And what we know is if you want to be a really smart person, you learn with all your senses. Because if you're learning with all your senses, then a bunch of different parts of your brain will create memories, and then 5 years down the road, you can actually draw from that. Right? Okay? So now if I put those electrodes on a kid and I give them a tablet and I say, hey, I just want your little avatar to go pick up sand and let it run through their fingers, about that much of their brain responds. That's why they make them use physical pages, they smell books, they turn pages, they use their hands, they use all their senses because they want really smart kids, and they pay hundreds of thousands of dollars every year to send to a school that refuses to use electronics. Kind of creepy, huh? Here's the thing that gets scary, is that we have, who in here has ever watched their younger siblings or somebody you know, YouTube search for somebody conquering part of a video game that they have not been able to overcome, right? See it all the time. You know what that is? That is wanting the dopamine that goes with wanting to see something overcome without actually having to work for it. So this is what we have right now. We have kids who've become addicted to watching other kids run, jump, build, explore, and play. We have teenagers who've become addicted to watching other teens run, jump, build, explore, and play. And we have entire families that sit on couches and they live a cheap life watching other people run, jump, build, explore, and play. I've talked to teens that say, man, I used to go skiing, I used to go hunting, but now it's like, I gotta go, I gotta shoot it, and if I do take one out, I gotta track it down, I gotta drag it back, I gotta clean my gun, I gotta hang it up, I gotta gut it, I gotta do all this stuff, right? Or I could just sit home and play video games and not do anything. And what does the brain say? I'll take that, cheap dopamine. So let's talk about this digital footprint. So I hang out in a lab. I'm a lab rat. Homeland Security, FBI, OSI, all state, local, tribal, federal law enforcement will bring me evidence. Most of the time, I don't meet the suspects and I don't meet the victims, but they bring me devices and I start looking through it. And this is what I look. It's kind of small, but I do want to show you up here the Facebook Messenger. Where's it at? I love this Snapchat. Snapchat doesn't go away. Snapchat tells you it goes away, but when I get a search warrant return from Snapchat and I have, 130,000 images that they have told you have disappeared, that's not quite the case. It's not as secretive as they plan it to be. So this is what it looks through. If I were to take your phone, I hook it up to one of our $10,000 machines, and it runs through, and it's going to show me all your postings, your videos, your chats, your searches, your websites, your history, everything. Now, even though I've never met you, I can tell if you're Republican, Democrat, or Independent, usually the size clothes you wear, the size pants you wear, if you're married, if you're single, if you cheat, if you lie, if you smoke, if you drink, if you lie to your parents, if you like to be one person with this set of people, another person to this set of people, and another person to your family. I usually know every medical condition that you think you've had, you think your animals have had, you think your friends have had, because we Google everything, right? So that's one device. We have a digital footprint on every device we own, and then we have a larger one online, and that's all our cloud data that is bought, traded, and sold by data brokers every single day. I am not worried about my digital footprint, but I am worried about yours. Because we have to look at and say, who looks at your digital footprint? So let's start with the first one. Parents, not just your parents, but other kids' parents will look at your stuff. Teachers, principals, and coaches. Miss Julie and I were talking last night about how much stuff that she ends up seeing of her students that students would never, ever intend for her to see. Colleges and universities. So if you have an Apple account, you have an iCloud account. If you have an Android device, you have a Gmail account. So you can have a bunch of fake accounts that your parents don't know about, but they all come back to one Gmail and one Apple account, and both Apple and Google openly say, we collect all your data, and yes, we sell it. They collect what the speed limit is and how fast you are driving. When you get up, when you go to sleep, if you brush your teeth, do you text and drive? They have a psychological profile on every single person, and we give it to them for free. Now let's complicate this a little bit more. Every app that we download, there's nothing in an app that says, I promise I won't sell your private messages. When we go to the Apple Store or the Google Store or Google Play Store, basically we're saying, give me a free app and you can have anything I use on it. All my private messaging, if I send any pictures or videos, that becomes their property. You follow me? This is why we have kids walking into college interviews with perfect 4.0s, beautiful letters of references, and they have colleges telling them, no thanks. I love these quotes. Penn State dropped another prospect this morning due to his social media presence. Actually glad I got to see the real person before we offered him. SMU came across an awful Twitter account today. Shame the kid was a really good player. On to the next one, get a clue. There's hundreds of thousands of really talented, really smart kids out there, and when they have to look through a digital background and they say, this one can't go 5 seconds without dropping the F-bomb, this one can't get off porn for 3 seconds, this one talks crap about every single person in their life. I wonder if we let them come to our college, what are they going to do in our university? I've talked to a lot of girls that say, well, I want to play ball for Baylor. Okay, so do tens of thousands of other girls. So if they're reading through your texts and they're looking at your messages and everything you say is, duh, idiot, retard, get a life. You may be the sweetest person in the world and you're just kind of being sarcastic and funny, but they don't know you. The only thing they get to look at you is your messages, and then they decide the kind of person you are. It's not fair, but unfortunately, this is part of our world and part of our digital footprint. Employers are no different. Employers have realized that you can hire somebody and watch their moral compass unfold in the workplace, or you can just do a little digging. One employer said you can tell the caliber of a man by the way he speaks to his wife or girlfriend when he's mad. Does he call her names? Does he belittle her? Another one said you can tell the character of a girl or a woman by the way she speaks to her closest female friends. They said, if she always comments about the appearance of other women, the weight of other women, the clothes of other women, if you hire her, she will do that and she will wreck your business. I mean, I liken it to right now. We're living in a day and age that you guys are going into a field that when you apply for somebody or something, it's almost like somebody getting a search warrant looking through your stuff. People that we don't like and people that don't like us. How many people have brought something to your attention about another person that they just didn't like? Right? Most of that stuff, it's people watching people that they don't like to make sure everybody else finds out about it. Strangers and online predators. In this day and age, your digital footprint has a life of its own. I'm going to bring up Elliot to talk about sexting, which I absolutely hate. Sorry. I have only like 10 iPhones at the office, all for sexting.
All right, so at the beginning of the presentation, I had mentioned that I investigate a lot of different types of crimes, and some of those are pretty heinous crimes, right? The possession, distribution, and manufacturing of child pornography, sexual exploitation of minors, horrible crimes. Unfortunately, one crime I do have to investigate is sexting. Sexting is the, don't steal my thunder now. Sexting is the umbrella that captures everything when a juvenile, somebody under the age of 18, takes a picture of themselves naked, sends that picture to somebody, or maybe they receive a picture and they keep it. Sexting is a crime. You are not allowed to take pictures of yourselves naked. You're not allowed to send those pictures to anybody. And if you receive one, you're not allowed to keep it. Sexting is a crime. So, short video here to kind of help illustrate sexting. This is typically how it goes. The girl's in her bedroom. She gets the text from the boyfriend. And in this case, he says something to the effect of send a nude or send me a naked image. Should she send it? No, they cry. And that is correct. That is correct. That is the right answer. And in this case, she doesn't. And I guarantee that her life is better because of it. But that's not what we typically see in our cases. So, we'll show you the other example. She goes into her bedroom or the bathroom. She takes a picture of herself naked and she sends it to her boyfriend. So he's out with his friends. He gets the message, sees it. Should he show his friends? Absolutely not, right? But this dummy's going to do it. And here's the deal. Once you hit send, you have no control as to where it could eventually end up. Whether it's a text, a video, it doesn't matter. So now he shows his friends.
Come on, send that to me.
They ask for it. Should he send it to them? Pass it on? Absolutely not. But again, as soon as you hit send, you have no control as to where it could eventually end up. I had one case where this girl was dating a boy. He asked for a naked picture, and she sent one. And when I was done with that case, that one nude image of her went 3 school districts. I mean, can you imagine the number of parents and kids that had to come into my office to talk about this, electronics that we had to confiscate, search warrants that we had to do on the homes? And do you think that's what she wanted to have happen with that one naked picture? Absolutely not. It's possible that little brother could get it, because like I said, you have no control once you hit send. It is possible that mom could get it. Because again, once you hit send, you have no control as to where it could eventually end up. Who's this guy? No, that's not dad, right? That's not the uncle. That's the fat, old, naked, bald, greasy guy living in his mom's basement, right? He represents the internet. And if I am not fast enough as a detective to contain those pictures and eradicate them, ultimately they could go up to the internet. And if that happens, they're incredibly hard to get back. So now comes the point of the presentation where I have to go over cold, hard facts with you folks. But before I do, I always preface it with 2 things. Number 1, I genuinely care about each and every one of you in this room, or I wouldn't be doing this type of job, guaranteed, all right? Number 2, sometimes girls will ask boys for naked pictures. But most of the time, by an absolutely huge percentage, boys are asking girls for naked pictures. So, girls, I'm talking to you now, all right? And fellas, I know you're not the guys that would do something like this, but please continue listening because it could affect you as well. But girls, I'm going to tell you some cold hard facts, and I don't do it because I'm a jerk. And some of the stuff I'm going to say, it's going to kind of suck, right? But I'm here to tell you the truth because someone needs to tell you the truth. If a boy ever asks you, what is that supposed to mean? 5 minutes? Well, why'd you take so long? If a boy asks you for a naked picture, he doesn't care about you. He doesn't love you, and he sure as heck doesn't respect you, all right? And you all deserve to be respected. I am going to now arm you with these forms of manipulation because that's all they are, just forms of manipulation. So if you hear this, and I want to empower you, because if it hasn't happened already, it is inevitable that this is going to happen. So you're going to hear this. Send me a naked picture, and I promise I won't show anybody. And girls, I'm here to tell you the truth that is 100% a lie. 100%. Do not let him tell you any differently, all right? You're going to hear, send me a naked picture, and I promise I'll delete it. And again, that is 100% a lie. 100%. And in fact, this is what happens with your naked pictures. So we'll get a hold of his cell phone in some unrelated case and we'll examine it. And yes, unfortunately, your naked pictures are on there. But so are the pictures of a bunch of other naked girls from your school or other neighboring schools because, ladies, I'm here to tell you the truth. When the boys get a hold of your pictures, all they do is trade them. They trade them with one another. So I want you to let this sink in. Your worth to them is reduced down to nothing more than a trading card. That is all you are worth to them. But I am here to tell you that you are worth so much more than that. You are worth so much more than that. And again, fellas, I know you're not the fellas that would do something like this, but please continue listening. Let's see, you're going to hear this. You are going to hear this. Send me a naked picture or I'm going to hurt myself. And again, I don't just make this up. This is from working countless sexting cases, all right? You are not obligated to take naked pictures of yourselves and to send them to anybody just because they said they're going to hurt themselves. These are just forms of manipulation. What I would like you to do instead is get a hold of that trusted adult, the parent, the guardian, the teacher. They'll get a hold of us. I'll be more than happy to go knock on his door and find out if he's really going to hurt himself. But you are not obligated to take naked pictures of yourselves and to send them to anybody. All right? I had this girl in my office, and I said, hey, why'd you take a naked picture and send it to these two boys? And she said, because those boys were giving me the attention that I was seeking or that I wanted. And you know what? I get it. I get it. Because I don't care if you're an adult. I don't care if you're a juvenile. But everybody wants the attention of somebody that they think that they like. But girls, I am here to tell you the truth, that the boys will say anything and everything that you want to hear to get a hold of those pictures. All right? Again, I know it sucks to hear it, but you have to hear the truth. He's not going to tell you the truth. He's not. And in fact, if any of those relationships are going on right now, I guarantee when you leave here, this is the next thing you're going to hear. Oh, baby, don't listen to that fat old detective. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Baby, I love you so much. Baby, I respect you. That's exactly what you're going to hear. It's just manipulation. Just manipulation. Had a girl in my office, asked her, hey, why'd you take a naked picture and send it to these boys? And she said, because the popular girls were doing it. So let's talk about popular. Another 5 minutes? All right. So let's talk about popularity, right? Popularity. Go ask any adult in this room when we're done, right? Go home and talk to your parents. And I know as you go through school, right, it may seem like, maybe, it might seem like popularity is important. Maybe, I don't know. But any adult will tell you that once you get out of school, the popularity here in school will mean absolutely nothing. It does not carry over into adulthood, all right? And as an example, I will throw myself under the bus. So when I was growing up, I had braces. Junior high, that's not a big deal, braces. Not a big deal. I had headgear. You guys know what headgear is? No. You guys know what 80s headgear is? Right? This monstrosity that sits on your head. I had horrible, absolutely horrible acne. I had this long flowing mullet. I was super skinny. I played Dungeons and Dragons, right? Any D&D peeps in the house? Oh, BS. BS. You're just trying to keep a secret. But here's the deal. When I was going to school, was I a popular kid? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But I can stand before you today as a successful detective that truly does care about each and every one of you. And popularity had absolutely nothing to do with it, right? I tell you that because I want you guys to make your own decisions and don't let somebody sway those decisions for you. Do you just want to skip the rest and try to blaze through cyberbullying? All right, well, then you got to speed it up on the next one. I had so much more good stuff.
Yeah, all right. There's a couple things that I just wanted before we're kind of running late. This is the first one we've done in over a year. So there's a couple things that I want you to keep in mind. I want you to look at the stuff you're doing, and if you wouldn't want your parents to see it, I'm going to challenge you. Why would you want a job interviewer or an employer to see it? If I stood up in front of you right now and I took a selfie, like I just took a picture, and then I held the power button down, I don't know what the picture looked like. I didn't look at it. I didn't upload it. I didn't open a single app. I simply just took the picture and turned my phone off. If I walked over to my computer and logged into social media, what is there? We had a cyber tip from Snapchat, and they said, hey, we got a 12 to 15-year-old naked girl. IP address comes back to Rapid City, South Dakota. At this point, she hasn't sent the snap, but she definitely took it. And when one of our guys knocked on her parents' door and said, hey, we got this cyber tip from Snapchat, they got a naked kid, she said, I didn't send it. And he's trying to explain to her, did you take it with a smartphone? Absolutely. You take anything with this, it is shared. If I run over this phone in the parking lot, I will go get another Android, log in with my Gmail account, and everything will come back. There is nothing private on these. I would never text or take a picture that I wouldn't be comfortable with being on the front lines of the Rapid City Journal tomorrow morning. And I challenge you guys all, if you are not okay with your parents seeing it, why would you be okay with a college interviewer or a job interviewer seeing that? I know a lot of people say, as long as my parents don't find out, it's not until the college interview that they realize that it's not about what their parents see, it's about what happens way down the road. So I'm going to end it with, sorry, I've got to go through. How many of you, we talked about who is 18? Who's 17? 17? So you 17-year-olds, I want to pass something by you. If we catch you with naked images of minors, we may call it sexting. We may get the phone call to parents. Elliot likes the call and says, hey, little Johnny's kind of gone sideways. We got some naked pictures. The day you turn 18, we arrest you with felony possession of child pornography. There's nothing in the law. Right now, we arrested a kid who 2 weeks after his 18th birthday, he started at School of Mines, and we arrested him with felony possession of child pornography. It was the same nudes that he had during high school as a 17-year-old, and when they told him, you should probably knock that off, he didn't listen, and we arrested him with felony possession of child pornography. And what he said was he started collecting nudes when he was 14, and he had planned on stopping before he turned 18. The day you turn 18, if you have nudes in any of your cloud, any of your storage, any of your apps, and the filters which are required to be run by law catches it, it is a search warrant for felony possession. I cannot stress that enough. It breaks my heart to see kids that are 18 years old that we are arresting because they didn't figure it out that the day they turn 18, it's not sexting anymore. It's a felony level, and there's nothing that you can do to go around a felony level of federal offense. So in the end, you have to decide. It's your data. We're getting into a day and age that people are not looking and meeting us face to face. They are simply looking through our data and determining the kind of person we are. If somebody wanted to know whether I was a follower of Jesus Christ, I would hope that they would be able to look through my personal life, my actions, my behaviors, and look through all of my data on all my accounts and say, obviously, she's a follower of Jesus Christ. If I said I'm a good mom, I would hope that my data would reflect that. You are getting into a day and age where people are going to sort through their data before they ever give you a chance to even meet you face to plead your case. So you have to decide, are you going to send the nudes? Are you going to ask for them? Are you going to be that nightmare in somebody else's story? Are people going to sit around a kitchen table and talk about what you said or did that day to their child? Are you going to be that person? How much private information do you plan on sharing? Will you be the one that stands apart? We talk to employers that are trying to get people to come in their field, and they're going to colleges, and there's jobs all over the country that are paying like $600,000, and they sit open because they cannot find people without garbage in their background. For those of you that are listening to this information today, and you're like, sweet, I have an awesome digital footprint. I'm actually pretty excited for people to look through my stuff. You will probably make more money than the average student. You will probably go farther than the average student because they're looking for people that do not have a bad digital footprint. For those of you that may have been listening today and maybe had a little bit of the pucker factor of, oh no, I didn't realize that that was kind of public information and people could look through my private messages. Here's what I challenge you. I love this quote with C.S. Lewis. You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you're at and change the ending. So, when I get on the stand for digital forensics, they will say, when did they turn on the device? When did they open that app? When did they put those search terms? When did they send that video? When did they send that picture? I can tell you when it stops, when it starts. I can tell you if somebody has stopped looking at porn. I can tell you if somebody has stopped cussing, somebody has stopped drinking. Here's the beautiful part. Let's just say today you're looking at yourself thinking, I am probably doing some things that's not okay. I am using language that's not okay. I am doing things that I would hate for somebody to see down the road. Go home, delete your accounts. Delete the accounts, create new accounts, do the whole shebang. You haven't deleted anything. You haven't deleted anything at all. It's all there in the servers. But here's the beautiful part. Today is May 12th, 2021. For the rest of your life, you can walk into any job interview, college interview, and say, hey, just so you know, you may find some stuff on me out there, but I challenge you to find anything after May 12th, 2021. Why? I just realized what I was doing was wrong and I stopped. Tell you what, it'll show character and moral strength to show somebody, like, you may find some stuff on me, but I challenge you to find anything after this date. I've met a lot of kids that were on a really bad path and they stopped. And they know the date, and it's beautiful when they can walk into an interview with confidence knowing that they don't always have to look over the shoulder for their stuff that they're doing and saying online. I think we have come to a conclusion, right? We're pretty close. 2 minutes? 1 minute? Yes. All right. Thank you, guys. Sorry it was so rushed. You guys are our welcome back class. Snapchat's terrible. I hate Snapchat. Elliot. What? Stop. I hate Snapchat. I hate Snapchat. And here's the deal. Snapchat is very pro-law enforcement. Well, Snapchat is very pro-law enforcement. So they run age and skin filters across images and videos, and that's where we get cyber tips that say, hey, we have an image, IP address comes back to Rapid City, South Dakota. IP address comes back to Sturgis, Spearfish, Lemon. So when you think about Snapchat and you think, oh, I think I'm getting away with something, absolutely not. Eventually the filters pick it up, and eventually by law they have to create a cyber tip, and they are incredibly law enforcement friendly when it comes to saying, I want all the accounts, all the fake accounts that are associated with this account. Any IP address that comes back, other Snapchats come back. So just keep that in mind.
There's nothing anonymous, and nothing goes away. That's just the truth. They're going to lead you to believe other things, but that is truly how it happens, right? Not a lot of young people know that. So if you have any type of social media, it doesn't matter if it's Snapchat or Instagram or Facebook or what, MySpace, it doesn't matter, right? Okay, all right, took a little bit. But here's the deal. If those accounts are still active, it is just, because think about how many accounts do they have to eventually go through? A ton, right? So if you do something inappropriate, say today, it doesn't surface today. It could take weeks or months or years, but eventually they will come across it. So again, if that account is active, There will be a knock at the door at some point. Just wanted to share that with you guys.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, thank you very much.